In the United States today, there are more than 2 million undocumented youth and young adult immigrants. In the Philadelphia area alone, there are more than 50,000 undocumented immigrants. Kathy Tillman is a social worker and family therapist who founded La Puerta Abierta, or the Open Door. La Puerta Abierta is a nonprofit organization that is focused on providing the Latino immigrant and refugee community with healing and hope through trauma-informed mental health support. Trauma-informed care is an organizational structure and treatment framework that involves understanding, recognizing, and responding to the effects of all types of trauma. La Puerta Abierta provides services to people of all ages and genders. The organization primarily serves the Latino community, but is not limited to just the Latino community itself.
The majority of the youth and families that we work with now obviously come from Central America and Mexico. So we've become much more involved with understanding what the needs are with the very meager resources that are down there, and how do we lend support to help them build what they need to. Because the reality is that, first of all, to cultivate support in those countries sometimes could impact on a decision as to whether, especially a young person, decides to leave and come here. But it also is our reality where a lot of our folks do end up deported. And so we make sure that if they are unfortunately deported back, especially youth, that they have a safety net of support. We show very sincere and non-negotiable love and care to our communities. And when you think about mental health systems, that's not always something you hear. But there's so much bureaucracy that gets in the way of actually being, considered as a place, a safe place, a caring place, a trustworthy place. That by the time you push away all the bureaucracy and all of the layers of sometimes dysfunction that go with that, it's very hard to find the space to say, this is a caring and loving space, and this is not negotiable, and this is something that we want you to trust. And I would say that anybody that has come into LPA spaces, whether it's interns, volunteers, community members, that have come to us for care, that is the feedback that we get all the time.
The work that La Puerta Abierta performs is unique compared to organizations that perform similar work within the community.
We believe in an empowerment model in our care that is very different than the typical mental health approach to fixing people and their problems. I think that's something that's horribly wrong with our mental health system. I'm a therapist, so therefore I'm determined to be an expert on how to make you feel better. We do not do that. We collaborate with even folks who come here who really don't have any idea what therapy is. They don't really understand the concept. They don't have emotional language. And so this is part of how we begin to establish a relationship of really, what is it you're struggling with, but what is it that you already have in your your arsenal of ideas and strategies that have already worked for you that you're not even recognizing at this point. And so, there's a lot that we work into our conversations that really are looking at it both through a cultural lens and a trauma-informed lens.
Tillman explained, as oftentimes we say in trauma-informed work, it's not what is wrong with you, but what has happened to you. And so getting some sort of perspective on that, where you are not the person who has created your own suffering, but that your circumstances have.
As we start to unpack those stories and those perspectives, and then a person sits there and goes, wow, so I'm not messed up. I'm not screwed up. What has happened around me and in my world and what continues to go on in the world is pretty messed up. And so the shift becomes, as you begin to heal, you also start to recognize your own power, and with that comes responsibility, of course. So if you're a parent, if you're a woman, if you're a community member, whatever, many of our what we would call clients are given opportunities to now pay it forward, so to speak, so that they are now in a position where they become, the first responders in the community. They become the ones with experience and understanding that can be helpful to other people. And no, they're not now therapists, but they work with us and they become resources in the community. I think that we've transformed a lot in both in communities and in people's lives, but I think also in the work that we do with systems, because that's really at the core of our mission. We do a lot of presentations with educators and other social workers and providers, and every opportunity we have is a teachable moment to not just talk about what is well-being, but how do you understand, especially now in this climate where sadly, you hear in the news every day, the vilification of people who used to feel that this was their home and now are very much not welcome. And there's a lot of, when you think relationally, there's a lot of, how do you reconstruct or even construct healthy, loving relationships in a child's life when either they've been absent or they've just been completely destroyed over time. And when you see that happen, it's very magical. It's a lot of work and it's sometimes emotionally exhausting. So it's complicated, but I feel like it's necessary to really do this work the way it should be done.